Hello, fellow river explorers. I am your river guide today. So, we're talking about John's Revelation, um, book 22, chapter 22, verses 1 through 5. So, um, John saw the New Jerusalem that he talks about in Revelation as the fulfillment of God's promise of the new heavens and the new earth that I'm making. That's from Isaiah 66, when God said through Isaiah that he was making new heaven and new earth. Um, so in Revelation 21, 1 through 5, it promises that God himself will be with them as their God, and he will wipe away every tear from their eye. So this is all very hopeful imagery. There is a better day ahead. And boy, don't we need that message right now. There is a better day ahead. And you can see in these verses, there's a lot of similarity to what we studied in Genesis and the Garden of Eden. And it's really, I mean, if you think about it, these stories are kind of the two bookends. You got Genesis and Revelation, and both are talking about a beautiful garden. So let's look at the verses. So Revelation 22, verses 1 to 2, the first part of verse 2. The angel is one of the seven angels that showed John the seven bowls that were full of the seven plagues in, where was that? In Revelation 21:9. So that's the angel they're talking about. And the angel, is it the angel? Yeah, they went on a spirit-inspired trance to a great high mountain. That's from Revelation 21, from which they saw the New Jerusalem. So it's we could assume that it's from this same mountain, the great high mountain, that the angel is showing John the river of life-giving water. So this river is like the main part of the vision. It flows from the throne of God and the Lamb down Main Street, and it feeds the tree of life. So, I mean, this is cool. This is really cool imagery. The water is bringing healing and life to the nations. In the second part of verse 2, it's not really clear how the tree of life was on each side of the river. Like, are we picturing like a giant redwood? You've seen those pictures long ago where there was a giant redwood and they carved out a hole in the middle. You could drive a car through it. Usually it's a small car, but you could still drive a car through it. So is it that kind of thing where the river flows through the middle of it? Another theory is like in Ezekiel had a vision where he talked about one tree that was used to refer to many trees. So maybe that's it. I remember that, like, if you go to Colorado and you see the aspen trees, if you see like a big field of aspen trees, it's actually one tree. It's one organism that shoots up all these trees. So who knows what it is, but there's obviously, I mean, it's a reference to the one tree of life from Genesis. So the belief at this time was that the new creation, the belief in the Revelation was that the new creation affirms the goodness of creation and the justice of God. So, in other words, the hope of the new creation is God's reply to the problem of evil. The world is evil, but there's evil in the world. The world is not evil. There is evil in the world, but there will be a new creation in response. And think about what we know about the tree of life in Genesis compared to the tree of life in John's Revelation. Both of them had special fruit, right? And remember, there were two trees in Genesis. There was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's the one that Adam and Eve ate from. And then there's the tree of life. God warned Adam not to eat from the first tree, the knowledge of good and evil. And then after they did eat from that tree, then God banished them because he was concerned that the human would stretch out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. So God drove the humans out. But now this new tree, there's not just one fruit that's growing from it. There's 12 kinds of fruit growing from it. And some people think that means like a fruit a month, but other commentators say it doesn't say that. It says 12 kinds of fruit. So presumably all 12 are growing at the same time, which is a pretty amazing thing. So this is a symbol of huge abundance. God providing way more and way more beautifully than anybody could ever imagine. And then it talks about the branches. The tree branches out so that the leaves are for the healing of the nations. So you say, well, what nations? If you look back at Revelation 21 again, the nations, these are the nations that were against God, and now they will walk by the light of God's glory. Does that mean that when all is said and done, God's mercy will extend to those who were once enemies of God? Don't know. Verse 3, the city will not just be blessed, but it will also be free of curses. The battle with evil has ended. And then what do the residents do of this holy city? They worship, which is the appropriate response if you think about it. Then in verse 4, the inhabitants of the city will see God's face and have God's name on their foreheads. God's light will shine on them. They will be in perfect communion with God. Isn't that what we are all seeking? Is perfect communion with God. And, in 1 John 3:2, we are promised that when Christ returns, we will be like him because we'll see him as he is. And Jesus also told us that Jesus is in us. Jesus was in the Father as we are in him, as he is in us. I don't remember the exact verse, but it's in John. And that's what we're going for here, is that total union and communion with God. Then finally in verse 5, it talks about there's no more need for light. It doesn't mean there'll be darkness. It means that God's presence will perpetually shine on the inhabitants of the holy city. And God's glory is brighter than any lamp or sun could ever be. Okay, so, one more realization about the inhabitants of the city is they will reign forever and ever. And you know what that reminds us of? The Hallelujah chorus from Handel's Messiah. Everybody, you know it. And he shall reign forever and ever. And that's a beautiful thing. So, all right. I hope you will listen to The River of Dreams by Billy Joel that I put the link in the video for, because I think you'll really enjoy it. It's just a happy song. It's funny because Billy Joel, he even says in the song he's not a spiritual man, and yet to me it's a deeply spiritual song. So enjoy that and enjoy the rest of the lesson, and God bless you.